The architect of shadows, the power of silence, the weight of the unspoken. In the previous 4 chapters of your transformation, you learned how to command the room with your presence, how to read the hidden movements of the human body, and how to manipulate the social chessboard to your advantage. You even touched the dangerous boundaries of emotional domination. But there is one final piece of the puzzle that separates the student from the architect. It is not something you do, it is something you refuse to do. It is the power of the unspoken word. Elias had become a master of the 7 secrets of respect. He could walk into a room and instantly be perceived as the most influential person there. He had practiced his body language until it was a natural extension of his will. He could see the micro-expressions of fear, joy, and deceit on the faces of his colleagues. He was skilled in social manipulation, knowing exactly which strings to pull to get the results he desired. Yet despite all this, he felt a lingering restlessness. He was still giving too much of himself away. The architect watched Elias from the corner of a dimly lit library. The architect was a ghost in his own world, a man whose influence was felt everywhere, but whose presence was noticed nowhere. He beckoned Elias forward. "You have learned the arts of action," the architect whispered, his voice steady and cold. "But you have not yet mastered the art of the void. You speak to win, but the true master wins by being the silence that others cannot fill." The law of information scarcity. The first principle of strategic silence is information scarcity. Most people are terrified of silence. They believe that if they are not talking, they are not being heard. They over-explain, they brag, and they confess their weaknesses just to fill the air. In doing so, they provide their enemies with the very weapons that will later be used against them. Information is like oxygen. If you give people too much of it, they take it for granted. If you take it away, they will do anything to get it back. Elias realized that in his previous attempts at emotional domination, he had still been explaining his motives. He wanted people to know why he was powerful, but the architect taught him that the most feared power is the one that has no explanation. Elias began to apply the law of information scarcity in his professional life. When he was asked about his plans for the next quarter, he didn't provide a 10-page report. He gave a single profound sentence: "The results will speak for themselves." He then stopped. He didn't smile, he didn't look for approval. He simply sat in the void he had created. The people in the room became visibly uncomfortable. They began to ramble, trying to justify their own positions, revealing their fears and their hidden agendas. Elias just listened. He was collecting data while they were hemorrhaging it. The psychological mirror. Silence is not just a lack of sound, it is a psychological mirror. When you refuse to react to someone's provocation or question, they are forced to look at their own reflection. If they are angry, your silence makes their anger look childish. If they are lying, your silence makes their lies feel heavy and obvious. In his 3rd lesson, Elias had learned social manipulation. Now he combined it with the mirror of silence. During a meeting with a rival who was trying to undermine him, Elias used the techniques of body language to stay perfectly still. The rival insulted Elias's department, waiting for a defensive reaction. Elias did nothing. He didn't even blink. He let the insult hang in the air like a bad smell. The silence lasted for 5 seconds, then 10, then 15. The rival began to sweat. He started to backpedal, trying to clarify his insult, making himself look weak and desperate. By the time the rival stopped talking, he had completely destroyed his own credibility. Elias had won the war without firing a single shot. He was using the Stoic shield at its highest level: total indifference. the Enigma Protocol. Mystery is the ultimate multiplier of attraction. In the fourth video, we explored how to create emotional domination through connection. But the strongest emotional bond is not built on what you know about someone. It is built on what you don't know. The human mind is designed to solve puzzles. If you are a puzzle that cannot be solved, the mind becomes obsessed with you. The architect told Elias about the ghost protocol. To be a ghost is to be present but unreachable. Elias stopped posting on social media. He stopped explaining where he was going or what he was doing. He became an enigma. People who used to take him for granted started to wonder about him. They began to respect his time because they didn't know how much of it was available. This mystery created a gravitational pull. In social situations, people would gravitate towards Elias, hoping to get a glimpse into his world. He had mastered the rule of 3 seconds, waiting 3 seconds before answering any question. This small delay gave his words the weight of gold. It signaled to the world that his thoughts were filtered and precious. He was no longer a participant in the social game. He was the game itself. The integration of the shadow. The architect stood up and walked toward the window, looking out at the city lights. You have integrated the 4 pillars: respect, body language, manipulation, and domination. But silence is the cement that holds the fortress together. Without it, your fortress is just a collection of bricks waiting to be knocked over. Elias looked at his hands. He felt a sense of calm he had never known. He no longer felt the need to prove his intelligence. He no longer felt the need to be the center of attention. He understood that true power is quiet. It is the architect behind the scenes, the shadow in the room, the silence between the notes of a song. He remembered the 7 secrets of respect and realized they were most effective when delivered with a quiet confidence. He realized that body language was most powerful when it was used to observe, not just to signal. He saw that social manipulation was most successful when the target never even knew a move had been made. And he felt that emotional domination was most absolute when the target was obsessed with uncovering your secrets. The final awakening. The architect turned to Elias. The world is full of noise, Elias. Everyone is screaming to be noticed, but you have learned to disappear into the light. You are the shadow that they cannot catch. You are the architect. Elias left the library and walked into the night. He was no longer the man he was 5 videos ago. He had gone through the fire of dark psychology and emerged as something else. He was a master of the human mind, but more importantly, he was a master of his own. As he walked, people looked at him. They felt the cold presence he had cultivated. They felt the respect he commanded without saying a word. They saw a man who was perfectly comfortable in his own skin, a man who didn't need their approval because he had his own. Elias was finally free. He was the shadow in the room, the silent force, the architect of his own destiny.